Welcome to a special milestone episode of Shot Clock Scribbles. I am recording this on Thursday morning, the 9th of May. As we celebrate our 15th episode, we're getting deep into the 7th inning, into the juiciest topics, igniting the NBA and WNBA world. In this electrifying edition, we're championing the voices of both leagues, ensuring the WNBA shines as brightly as its NBA counterpart. Get ready for a behind-the-back pass as we slice up the futures of teams recently ousted from the playoffs, projecting their next moves in the chess game of the offseason. Plus, we're putting on our analyst hats to unveil my predictions for the thrilling second-round matchups that have been very exciting. Make sure you guys stick around to later in the show where I'll be giving my NBA Finals prediction. You do not want to miss this. That's not all, basketball folks. We'll be going over recent winners in the association from MVPs to Defensive Player of the Year. We'll unpack it all. I've got you covered. Since I reside in Sacramento, let's have a quick thought on the off-season priorities for the Sacramento Kings. We'll be mapping out the ideal targets for the Kings as they strive to fortify their roster and reignite their championship aspirations next season. So, join us for a compelling ride through the Hoops universe where no topic is too hot to handle and no player is left in the shadows. This is Shot Clock Scribbles, where passion meets insight and every episode is a cause for celebration. Let's jump right into the action. In this round of the pod, I'll be giving my analysis and round 2 predictions as followed. First series is the New York Knicks and the Pacers. On my Instagram, I predicted Pacers in 6, but it doesn't look like it's going to finish up like that. Knicks with a fantastic fourth quarter in Game 1 behind Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson joins Elite Company, having 4 straight 40-plus games in the playoffs. He was 14 for 26 from the field, grabbed 6 boards, and dished out 6 assists in Game 1. Game 2, he was questionable after getting bumped by Nembhard, but he comes back in typical Knicks fashion and had a great night shooting the ball. He was 11 for 18 from the field in Game 2 and was 50% from 3. Reggie Miller kept saying it, and it's true that the best offense for the Knicks is their offensive rebounding. And guys, they had 12 of them in Game number 2. The Pacers defense is predicated on disrupting Jalen Brunson and making him really uncomfortable. And I tell you, they're saying they want someone else to beat us. OG Anunoby, the forward, exited the game last night. It remains to be unseen if he plays in Game 3. There is doubt that he will not play, but he tied Dante DiVincenzo with points at 28 apiece. Back to Jalen Brunson. This guy is a superstar. He is a stud. Nike might as well start thinking of giving him a signature shoe deal, like for real. Another thing for this series is I predicted that Siakam was going to dominate his matchups, and he was 8 for 6 from the field in Game number 1 and 1 for 3 from the long ball, netting in 19 points in Game 1. He's going to have to be more dominant if the Pacers have any kind of chance of playing level with the New York Knicks. Game number 2, he only had 14 points, so it looks like my prediction did not age too well, but it's only 2 games in. Somebody who has shown up for the Pacers is a former Knick. Obi Toppin Jr. is having a great series, and the Pacers team really needs as many points as they can get, especially when Halliburton only has 6 points in Game 1. Game number 2 had 34 points, but that is my other case. Tyrese is going to have to be a better player than Brunson if the Pacers have a real chance of winning this series. We know Tibbs plays his starters heavy minutes. The only reserves had 10-plus minutes apiece in Game number 1. Overall, I think the Pacers have a better constructed roster, but also hurt you from the outside as well. I have to switch up my previous standing. Is the Knicks edge out the Pacers in 5 games. I don't think this one's going to be that close after watching a couple games in. Next series I want to dive into is the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Not a in-depth analysis here, but I think the C's win this series in 5. The Cavs, if you guys remember, beat the C's at home this past regular season. So sometimes the C's are their worst enemy and sometimes do not execute down the stretch. So I see them at least stealing one. Second point is I didn't watch very much of game number 1. I'll probably will be doing that a little bit more tonight. Ended up catching it late. But one thing I know is Donovan Mitchell is going to bring the Thunder as much as he can. He poured in 33 points on 50% shooting from the field and 36% from the three. But he did his part. It's rumored that if the Cavs do not make it to the championship, Donovan Mitchell will be out of there. Honestly, this is his last season because the Cavs are not going to get past the Celtics. The other point I wanted to make was Darius Garland only took 15 shots in game number 1, and he signed a max extension. People that know basketball like myself know he's not a max type of player, but godly, let that thing fly a little bit more, young man. They're missing Dean Wade, who helps them stretch the floor as a stretch 4. Jarrett Allen also missed his 4th consecutive game in the playoffs, so they really missed the biggest rim protector, who we've talked very greatly about in this pod in the past. He's a big identity for what they do. In the stat line, it shows for sure 55 rebounds for the C's to the Cavs 38. Celtics in 5. That's my prediction. Next series here is the OKC Thunder and the Dallas Mavericks. This is the series that could really be a toss-up between any of the ones I'm going to name on this list. OKC has won this regular season series 3-1, but I learned from the Phoenix and Timberwolves series not to base too much on the regular season in this early life of covering the game, but I'm going to do that with this one still. I have OKC in 5, and here's why. Number 1, Luka is not 100%. He exerts a lot of energy in his lower body, and he is not getting the proper lift from his shots to generate those step-back threes. 2, OKC has a deeper bench than the Mavs. In fact, the Mavs only had 23 bench points compared to the Thunder's 36 points. 16 of those from the young stud in Aaron Wiggins, the 6'6", 200-pound man that is a rare gem picked up by Sam Presti. The shooting guard averaged 7 points on 56% shooting and close to 80% from the line. But do not let these numbers fool you. He makes more of an impact than that. Third point, even if Kyrie gets 30-plus points per game in each of the next upcoming games, they're going to need their supporting cast to bring the heat because Luka is not 100%. OKC in 5. Last series here is the Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets. This has been a showing out party for Anthony Edwards and his team. Couple points. First one, I thought this was going to be a closer series than what we're seeing here. And I think a lot of people agree with me when I say that. We expected the Nuggets to at least put up more of a fight. But oh my God, they played such shitty fucking defense these last 2 games. They were careless on the offensive end, passing the ball in between the legs, turning the ball over. Like, that is going to drive Mike Malone. You got Jamal complaining and throwing a heat pack on the floor and protesting to the refs. But I have the Wolves still winning this one in 5. Second point, it's going to be interesting to see the Nuggets adjustments in game number 3. But I'm afraid whatever Mike Malone and his staff might be drawing up is not enough for this championship contending Timberwolves there in Minnesota. Last motherfucking point. There is a reason the Timberwolves had the best defense this season in the NBA. And they won comfortably, and that is without their defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert, who just welcomed his firstborn. So congrats to him. In this part of the pod, I'll be predicting the 2 teams I think are going to be in the NBA Finals this season. So let's go ahead and get to it. Since the Clippers are out of the playoffs in the first round, I thought I would update my finals pick to be the Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics. I don't think anybody beats either one of those teams in their respective conferences. Second point is these 2 teams split the season series 1-1. We'll take a look at the numbers in just a moment here. Third point I want to make is everything is pretty similar when I look at the stats from these games. I'm not even sure if I watched any of these games. I might have. Who knows? But I have the Wolves winning it in 7 games. Yes, that is my bold prediction. I think Boston will fight tooth and nails until the very end, but the hungry players from the Timberwolves are going to be too much for the Celtics. So let's look at some stats from the first 2 games for the Boston Celtics. Something that stands out when I look at this game sheet here is they shot 28% from 3 in their second game. When Boston does not hit their 3 guys, they usually lose. So that's something to keep an eye on. We'll not go into detail about everything just because of time. For the Timberwolves, something that stands out when I look at this list here is they had 20 turnovers in the second game, followed by 50% shooting from the charity strike, but still managed to win 114-109. Typically, if you have those amount of turnovers in the association, you are going to catch an L on most nights. That is the final prediction that I have, is the Timberwolves are winning the NBA championship this season in 7 games versus the Boston Celtics. We're going to be diving into the hot topics around the NBA and the WNBA. So as of today, the Charlotte Hornets just signed Charles Lee as their next head coach. He comes from Boston, being an assistant over there. Also has experience in the league with the Atlanta Hawks. I believe he has 10 to 12 years of experience. So shout out to him. Love what Charlotte is doing ever since they got new ownership, and let's see how things go next season. As of today, there is a press release from New York City. Bucks Patrick Beverley has been suspended. Here is the release. Quote, Milwaukee Bucks guard Patrick Beverley has been suspended 4 games without pay for forcibly throwing a basketball multiple times at spectators and an appropriate interaction with a reporter during media availability. It was announced today by Joe Dumars, Executive Vice President, Head of Basketball Operations. Beverley's actions took place during and after the Bucks' 120-98 loss to the Indiana Pacers in Game 6 of their first round playoff series on May 2nd at Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Closed quote. So I think it's funny. I was just thinking about this before they just announced it on what Patrick's suspension is going to look like. And I had it in my head that he would get 3 games for what he did, but it looks like the NBA decided to give him 4. Back and forth with the ESPN reporter, probably got him an additional game. It's not a good look for Patrick, who has bounced around from team to team. It's not his first time doing this. Come on, man. You're promoting your podcast after a loss, and you're going back and forth with a fan throwing the ball. Come on, bro. Like, how old are you now? It's time to get the big boy pants on. Stop playing these games. Go out there, do what you got to do. If you win, great. But if you lose, don't act like a sore loser like you just did, because it really shows your true colors, man. I don't know what the amount ends up totaling to be, but he's going to miss the next 4 games next season. Next, on May 7th, press release out of New York was regarding Nuggets Jamal Murray and his fine. Quote, Denver Nuggets guard Jamal Murray has been fined $100K for throwing multiple objects in the direction of a game official during live play. It was announced today by Joe Dumars, Executive Vice President, Head of Basketball Operations. Murray's actions took place during the Nuggets' 106-80 loss to the Minnesota Timberwolves in Game 2 of their conference semifinal playoff series on May 6th at Ball Arena. Closed. Whoa, I actually did not see this live as I was watching it, but I ended up seeing the replay that they showed on TV. Wolves coach Chris Finch said that he might have possibly hurt a player, and that's true. But man, like, if this is Draymond doing this, or another player who's had multiple incidents with the NBA, he gets suspended for this game for sure. At least just 1 game. The NBA, look, the NBA protects who they want to protect, and it's simple as that. The Denver Nuggets, defending champions, you see guys like Embiid not getting thrown out of the previous series against the Knicks for being reckless. I mean, let's just call it how it is in the previous matchup. It's because it's good for TV. These players make a lot of money. And if these players get tossed out, they lose viewers. And you know what that does? That hurts their numbers and their revenue. Of course, this offseason, NBC is thinking about a $2.4 billion package to basically get TNT, Turner Sports, out of the way. But long story short, they lose viewers, and that's just how impactful these players are. These signature shoe deal players that you need to have on TV because they attract a lot of viewers to watch their games, which feeds them money into their pockets. It's simple as that. It's all good though. For these Denver Nuggets, let these Timberwolves keep raw dogging it to them on their way out. I do not like the Denver Nuggets. Obviously, what they've done to my Los Angeles Lakers, and I hope they sweep the Nuggets because a lot of people had the Nuggets doing a repeat this year. Not so fast, they're a Cowboy. That's what I think about it. It is what it is. It looks like Jamal has moved on. He just got a bunch of questions about it during his morning shoot around, and it sounds like he just wants to move on with it. In this part of the pod, I'll be talking about a couple of teams that got bounced out of the playoffs last week and speaking about what they need to prioritize this offseason. First team up here, the Los Angeles Clippers. Previously, I had the Clippers to be in the finals against the Celtics and the Celtics winning it. Of course, if injuries did not prohibit that, but it looks like my prediction is going to fall short because of Kawhi Leonard. That is the big X factor. The Mavs were able to beat the Clippers out without having Kawhi on the floor. He ended up missing the last game. He was a shell of himself, let's be honest. So the thing about Kawhi is he has played 68 regular season games this season, and he hasn't played in the most crucial times 4 years straight in a row. As an owner, I would not be too happy with that. These are guys that are getting the most paid on the team, and they just are not doing it when you really need them to. Speaking about his co-star in Paul George, he still hasn't signed his contract extension. It is because he wants to see his options this summer. He has a few suitable teams that he can go to. The Magic and the Sixers could be landing places for him. Also teams like Utah, who are at negative $8 million in cap. Houston, negative 23. Those are potential places for him. There's been news circulating also the Magic. It could be a contender for him in the offseason. So that is that. Another player in James Harden. James had a up and down season. I saw him play a couple of times this season at Crypto and then also here at the Golden One Center in Sacramento, and he played great. I was like, man, if this player is looking like the old James Harden again, then oh boy, this Clippers can go very deep into the playoffs. And that's what I originally had as my pick. But there has just been times where James hasn't showed up. I don't have the facts right in front of me, but he has stunk up the joint in the biggest of games. Even going back to his 76ers career, James Harden with the Houston Rockets was the best James Harden that we've ever seen with that step back three. And he just hasn't gotten it done this season. The reason that he was brought over is for obvious reasons, is when PG or Kawhi goes out, they need another co-star to offload the scoring for them. And he just not has been consistent this year, very much like the Sacramento Kings. More on them a little bit later. But James is a unrestricted free agent. I honestly think that he stays in LA. He's got a house there. Everybody wants to play in LA. I think he stays there. Ty Lue is in the market for a contract extension this offseason. And Lawrence Frank, their GM, former head coach in the NBA, is hopeful that he will sign with them. He has teams that will be interested in getting his signature in this offseason. Steve Ballmer, the richest NBA owner ever, pays up this offseason. he is probably willing to do whatever it takes to keep Ty Lue because he has won a championship. That is that. The Lakers are also a team that are keen on his services, staying right there in LA. But after he got lowballed from Genie and the Lakers a couple seasons ago, I think it left a bad taste in Ty Lue's mouth. Here's probably a quick look at what that looks like. Is your girlfriend dumped you, but a couple years later wanted to be back with you, and you're just like, no, you dumped me. Why would I want to be with you? Same thing. Probably not the best of examples. I just think that Ty goes somewhere else. This season, I said it's a championship bust season for these Clippers before the move to Inglewood. I think he leaves town. I honestly think that Ty Lue is going to leave. He will probably be offered the most money there with Los Angeles, but he might be keen on another team. Another player I want to speak about is Russell Westbrook. He also has that player option at $3.6 million this offseason. Not so sure if he will stay in LA. My guess is he probably stays. He's an LA native. He might just finish out his career there in LA. That's my prediction. Big Z, Zubac, and Terrence Mann both are eligible for extensions this summer as well. They also have the 46th pick in the second round at their disposal coming up soon here. It's a big offseason for the Clippers. Excited to see what kind of changes that they're going to make. And let's just stay tuned. We're going to now switch gears to the Orlando Magic. The Magic had a great season. They exceeded a lot of people's expectations from the jump. They finished 5th in the East this season. Paolo Banchero, again, with a great sophomore season. He averaged 27, 8, and 4 with a 55% true shooting percentage and was named an All-Star. A lot of people don't really give Paolo his flowers. He doesn't get talked about among one of the young players that could be a bona fide star in this league. I really like Paolo's game. He plays on both sides of the ball. He is a greedy player. I'm a Duke fan, so I'm going to be biased with this. I always love me some Dukies in the league. I'm looking forward to how he does in his third year. What are some of the elements that he feels like he needs to get better in, and how is that going to translate to the floor next season? With the Magic, they are one player away to getting further in the playoffs. Klay Thompson or Paul George might be options for them this season. They do have some cap room for wiggle. They can add a star player to that roster, and it's going to be very interesting what happens during this offseason. I think if they add another star, they can definitely get further in the playoffs, second round, third round, at the most likely. Let's talk about Paolo Banchero real quick. To have 3,000 plus points, 1,000 plus rebounds, and 700 plus assists in their first 2 seasons. He joins elite company with the likes of Luka, LeBron, and Grant Hill. That is just amazing. So what this should tell everybody is he just doesn't score the ball. He gets his teammates involved. He's going to rebound the ball as well. So he does a little bit of everything for his Orlando Magic team. That's their star player right now. Another co-star of his right now is Franz Wagner. He's another player to keep your eyes on. He's not a household name, guys, and I know that. I didn't get to see him play this season when he was in Sacramento. They played Golden State the night before, I believe, when he got injured. I didn't get to see him play, but I did watch it on TV. Oh my goodness. It was one of the most craziest games I've seen this season from the Sacramento Kings. They went into double overtime. Paolo got away with a travel. Franz didn't get to play. All good. I'll probably catch him next season because that's going to be on my bucket list to see the Orlando Magic play. Right now, Franz is averaging 19, 7, and 4 with a 54% true shooting percentage. Not too shabby. He played 72 games this season, which is actually higher than what I thought. If he gets his points per game close to that 25-point range, that would definitely elevate that team 100%. And another player I want to give his flowers to as well is Jalen Suggs. He is a heart and soul of that defense, relentless. He made my NBA all-team defense. He can do it on the defensive end. He's a 3-and-D guy. give that man a promotion after this stellar season. You definitely need to do that if you're the Orlando Magic. We will now diverge and speak about the New Orleans Pelicans. The Pels, another year and an early exit. Unfortunate injury to what happened to Zion Williamson in the playing game against the Lakers. That is the best I've ever seen him play ever. Watched a lot of his games at Duke. That is the most dominant game I've ever seen Zion play. Brandon Ingram was not 100% to finish out the rest of the season and was not the player that we are accustomed to seeing. Injuries really had a thing to do with where the Pels ended up this season, and it really hurt them. Let's be honest though, does a healthy New Orleans Pelicans team end up beating the OKC Thunder? Possibly. Big possibility there. With having Zion out and BI not being 100%, two of their most important guys against the series against the Mavs did not make it so competitive, really. We'll talk about what the Pelicans are planning to do this offseason because they have some decisions to make. They also have a 21st pick in the first round, so they can include that in a trade with available suitors. They also hold rights to obtain the Lakers' 17th pick or defer until next year, 2025. The thing about the Pels is they have long athletic wings in Trey Murphy and Brandon Ingram, which they can't afford to keep both of those guys. But hey, what do I know? When I look at their payroll for the Pels, really the players that they have for the future is CJ McCollum, Zion, Herbert Jones, Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, and EJ Little. Those are the only players that are really on the books for the foreseeable future. Zion owed $44 million in the 2027 year, just outrageous. But when I look at this roster here, Brandon Ingram can be moved this season. The GM over there can decide to let go of Brandon Ingram this offseason. He's owed $36 million. The three players that take up most of your salary, CJ, Zion, and BI. Zion is owed 36 this year, 39 next year, 42 after that, and then we just talked about his last year. CJ McCollum, they're paying CJ a lot of money, man, and they overpaid. That is for damn sure. $33 million this upcoming season, and then $30 million in 2025. So big decisions to be made. When I look at this roster, there's gaps of where they can let go of players. Najee Marshall is another player that is going to be a free agent, as well as Cody Zeller, who's 31 years old. Other players in Larry Nance Jr., this is last season as well. He's owed $11 million. Jonas Valanciunas is another player that is going to be a free agent. He is most likely going to have possible suitors. He's 32 years old, the tail end of his career. The next team he plays for is probably most likely. So that's where the Pels stand at the moment. The next team I wanted us to discuss is the Miami Heat in South Beach. So the Heat got beat by the Celtics 4-1. Last series was not even competitive at all. I didn't even watch very much of that series. Didn't really waste too much time doing that. Had better things to be doing. Jimmy Butler didn't play a single game against the Celtics, and he was hurt. So that really did hamper things on where and what the ceiling was for the Miami Heat. Injuries, again, plays itself in this story. They were facing opponents in the C's that were just way too good, especially with having Jimmy out. They were going to just demolish him. That's exactly what they did. It wasn't even fair. They basically embarrassed them as much as they could. The Heat did get a game, so kudos to that. But I thought they were going to get swept. And if you're Pat Riley, you have decisions to make this offseason. I'll be talking about their payroll in just a moment. But do you keep Jimmy? Also, I know in the interview most recently about Jimmy lighting up the Knicks or the Celtics if he was playing, there is no need for that. I totally get that. But the way Pat Riley took that and spun it out, it seemed like it was almost like a slave master mentality. That's what I feel like. You guys might see it different, but whatever. This is my platform. Keep that shit in-house. That is private. Give a call to Jimmy and tell him that you didn't like what he said. You don't have to go in your press conference on a Monday morning to voice your frustration about that. I do get it. You have a right to be frustrated, but not in the way that you went out. I just saw today that Mario Chalmers was told by Pat Riley during his rookie season, he needs to know everything that he's doing around the city. I mean, shit. Let me live, G. Come on now. That is nuts. We know how the Miami Heat operate. They're very on you. Everything with weight, everything to measure, everything to a T, like it's nobody's business. Back to what I was saying in Jimmy, he wants to stay. Obviously, it's a team that's going to offer him the most money. And in that recent press conference that Pat Riley had, I think that was the indication that they want to get rid of him and they're paying a lot of money for him and they want to probably offload that to somebody else. They could get rid of him this season. He is on the books for the next 2 seasons. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And with Jimmy, it was a big thing about being available for his team. This season, he averaged 21, 5, and 5 on 62% true shooting percentage. Butler is almost certainly going to ask the Heat for a 2-year extension this summer. He is owed $48 million next season and $52 million the year after that. Man, I get goosebumps even reading those numbers. It could guarantee him as much as $113 million for the 2025 and 2026 season. Pat Riley would need to see more play if he's going to get paid. Another thing is the player availability issues goes well beyond just Butler. Miami used a franchise record 37 different starting lineups in 89 games this season, including the 2 play-in contests. It had 18 different players make at least one start, largely because the lineup of available players seemed to always be changing from one night to the next. So let's take a look at the payroll for the Miami Heat. We just talked about Jimmy. Bam is also another player where they have decisions to make if they want to keep him or he gets sent somewhere else. He's owed $34 million this upcoming season, $37 the year after that. The only players that are really on your books for the future here is Tyler Hero. And I know, guys, I was talking about it in the last pod that Tyler Hero can be a franchise player for this team. And I still believe it. This is Miami, so there's also going to be attractions from other players. We've seen Damian Lillard voice his aspirations to play in South Beach. There's going to be players this offseason that will want to go to Miami. But he is the one that is on the books for the longest time. He's owed $29 million this upcoming season, 31 after that, and then 33 in the 2026-2027 season. Another player is Terry Rozier, who I think they overpaid for. They're paying this guy close to $25 million next season, 26th the year after that. And I did say that was a good signing for the Miami Heat. But when I look at those numbers being crunched down, I am not so sure about that. Duncan Robinson, another player that's on the books, 19 and 19 respectively. Then there's the other role players that we'll just leave at that. So if you're the Miami Heat, it's a disappointment of a season. You fell short of what you wanted to do. You're typically the team that wows everybody, gets your ass to the finals in some kind of fashion, but not this year. It wasn't going to cut it, especially with this roster. You have things to look forward to with this roster. Triple J and Jaime Jaquez Jr., who I saw this season here in Sacramento, absolutely stud of a player. But you're overpaying for players like Duncan Robinson and Terry Rozier. Who else wants to go to South Beach? Let's see what happens in the offseason here. Next 2 teams are in the West, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Phoenix Suns. I just want to emphasize with these 2 particular teams, I won't be talking extensively about their salary on their books. Let's begin with the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers got bounced out last week by the Nuggets for the 2nd straight year in a row, and the Nuggets were the better team. But I also feel like the Lakers shot themselves in the foot. I haven't heard JJ Redick and LeBron's new podcast, Mind the Game, but I did catch one of those little snippets from there. LeBron saying that they were this close to at least making it somewhat closer than what it was. What it came down to is the Lakers not paying attention to the detail. And at the end of it, it just became a thing where the Nuggets made more winning plays than their counterpart to win the series. It's really as simple as that. They dominated the execution. Jamal Murray likes to take the last shot if he can, and he did that twice against the Lakers for daggers to basically help the Nuggets win. If those shots don't go in, or if he doesn't get good looks like that, who knows? It could be a different series. Darvin Ham and his staff were let go last week. I wasn't surprised at this. It was bound to happen, especially after talks during the season. A lot of chatter about Darvin Ham getting fired. That's just what happens when you're the head coach of the most storied franchise in basketball history. No shade to Boston. But what really gets me going is they got rid of Phil Handy, their assistant coach. Phil has a great relationship with the players, and to let go of him, it's a sinker for us Lakers fans, if I'm being 100%. This season, at the top of their business this offseason for the Lakers is going to be getting a head coach. I recently saw Byron Scott, and I've heard Robert Horry has talked about it in the past too, where they and others in the Lakers organization feel that LeBron should be their coach. To be quite honest, I think these guys are just taking shots at the front office and at LeBron, just saying, okay, LB has so much control over when he gets his minutes. He controls when he comes out of games. It seems like things like that have rubbed the LA staff the wrong way, in where they think that LeBron has too much control. There's that one player that LeBron wanted the coaching staff to challenge, and they didn't. He's close to 40 years old. He's not once the same player that he once was. I've been hearing analysts left and right talk about LeBron, this, and that. LeBron doesn't get involved in coaching hires as posted by Wendy. It's rumored that JJ Redick, who does a pod with LB, is rumored to get this job. In reality, I believe this is more of an entertainment for folks, even though that's not a discredit for JJ being able to coach in the league at all. Just not to be in LA for your very first gig, where again, the crown is heavy. Word to Kendrick Lamar. All right, let's look at the head coaches that are available on the market. Lakers will be looking for a coach with championship pedigree and has a good tenure in the league, coaching in the association. It's getting towards the back end of LBJ's career, so you need to find a coach that is going to be able to mesh very well with him. It just got reported just now, guys, as I'm reading this, that Frank Vogel has been let go of his duties with the Phoenix Suns. You could possibly add him to this list, but the very first guy on my list is actually being rumored to get the Phoenix job. More on that in a second. And that person is Mike Budenholzer, a former head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks. He has a regular season record of 60% and playoff record of 53%. I think he is the best coach for LB. He is a great offensive mind. You need to bring somebody that can mesh very well with LeBron and somebody that respects. So I think this is the person for that. And Mike is a former basketball player himself, so I think it is a good fit. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in the NBA right now. The second coach is not really that realistic. Kenny Atkinson, he is assistant coach right now with Golden State Warriors. He has a regular season record of 38%. In the playoffs, he's 1 of 4, so 20%, not very good. Not going to get it done for the Lakers. Third coach, Terry Stotts, the former Blazers head coach, who was going to end up being an assistant to David Griffin in Milwaukee, who ended up getting his job taken by the Bucks front office, has a regular season record of 51%. In the playoffs, he is 34%. Don't think that he gets hired. Ty Lue is a possible suitor, and it might happen. He has a regular season record of 59%, and as well in the playoffs, 59%. That's your candidate selection there. Obviously, there's a lot more than this, and maybe there could be a coach that I'm not naming that they will name, but those are the coaches that I think that are in the running for this particular job. So who should the Lakers hire? First, there aren't that great of candidates out there. The best on this list is Ty Lue and Mike Budenholzer. Who should the Lakers pick? For me, it's Mike Budenholzer, he has championship experience where Mike and Ty have that in their arsenal compared to some of these other coaches. The other coaches I named in that list don't really have that experience of winning some trophies. Another coach is Chris Quinn, his assistant coach out in South Beach, who coaches aside Eric Spoelstra, could be another candidate. Let's switch gears now and speak about the Phoenix Suns. They had a disaster of a season. We just talked about it a second ago, but their head coach has now been fired as of today, the 9th. They had a disaster of a season. The big three were not healthy all season, well, mainly Bradley Beal. He only played 53 games, guys, which comes out to 64%. So he missed 36 games this season, and they really could have used it against the Timberwolves. Really struggled with injuries all season long. You guys remember I had Phoenix beating the Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs. Well, I was clearly wrong about that. Totally fine. You make predictions, they don't work out. All good. I think the end of the Phoenix Suns season, they turned the Jets on really late, and it really gave me optimism that this team can really do something in the playoffs, especially after that thunderous win against the Sacramento Kings right here at home. But no dice for these guys. They just couldn't get it done. Speaking about the comments from the front office on their situation, really raised a lot of eyebrows around the league. He is the owner and GM. That's Matt Ishbia. Most NBA teams do not want to be in your situation, Matt. I hate to fucking break it down to you, sir. Not very many teams want to be in that scenario where you have three players taking up majority of your salary with no true role players. It's a disaster. And I think D-Book is going to get out of there this season. He's been there for a while. He is a player that admired Kobe being there all 20 years. And some say maybe D-Book will finish out his career there. I don't think so. I think it's a good time to leave. He could potentially end up maybe in OKC, possibly with the New York Knicks. I don't know, guys. It's sizzling. I think KD will end up staying. There's been a lot of rumored talks about him going to Golden State. But with this Phoenix team, they'll look to get some viable assets from letting go of either KD or Book. I don't think they'll both leave. I think only one of them goes. I think that's Booker, the guy that's been there the most. And honestly, too, if you're D-Book, you're looking at this, and you're like, okay, well, at least they have stars here. I'm just not dipping out of here, and if they're not going to be down in the water, because they're just some pretty good players in Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, where they'll have a lot of scoring. But it is what the Phoenix Suns are able to do and what assets they could get from trading D-Book. D-Book, he's owed $49 million next season. 53 after that, 57, and then 61. Damn, that's crazy. And he becomes a unrestricted free agent in 2028. So you keep KD and Bill and get a primary ball handler. That's what you really need, is a guy to set your offense in the right way. Get the ball to the guys who are going to win you ball games. Get it in their spots. Run the offense. That's all you need to do. That's one primary concern of what the Phoenix Suns will need to do, especially if they get rid of D-Book. I'll read out a list later in the pod who will be available as primary ball handlers, but that is it for the Phoenix Suns. There's two players I want to address during these hot topics conversations, both in the West. First is Kawhi, then we'll jump ship over to Brandon Ingram. So let's start off with Kawhi Leonard here. Kawhi had no business accepting the invite for the Olympics this season with Team USA, damn well knowing that he is not 100% even during the playoffs. Managing director Grant Hill, who I love, also had no business in extending this offer to him. But I get it. You pick a few players in the pool to be on standby just in case you need them. For them, it's a consolation prize, and it definitely does not feel the same as if you were selected firsthand. That is 100% the truth. I know another analogy here that might not be the best. It's like being the rebound after a girl gets out of her relationship and you're just an afterthought. Not good at all. JoJo is another player, although he played during the playoffs, still a shell of himself, dropped 50 points against the New York Knicks. I'm talking about Joel. Embiid, he is just not the same player that we saw earlier this season. And again, back to this 65 game policy bullshit. I do not believe in that. The standard should be a lot higher than that. I advocated for, I think, around 73 games to be part of the threshold, somewhere close to that. I think that would be a little bit better if those policies were not put in place. Kawhi and Joel Embiid would not be hurt. And I stand on business, as the kids say these days. Let's switch gears now and head to the Bayou State in New Orleans. And I'm going to be speaking about Brandon Ingram. So, quote, the Pelicans are not expected to offer Brandon Ingram a contract extension this offseason. Ingram is eligible to sign a 4-year, $208 million deal, but New Orleans will be going in another direction. Trey Murphy is also eligible for a rookie scale extension, expected to pay him $20 to $25 million annually. All signs point towards New Orleans prioritizing Trey Murphy over Ingram as their wing of the future. New Orleans will have Ingram's $36 million salary and a valuable draft capital to attempt to pair another star alongside Zion Williamson. And I think that's honestly what they're going to try and do here, is get rid of BI's salary. He signed a 5-year, $197 million deal. His average salary is close to $39.5 million per season. Brandon Ingram still has a lot more years left in the league. I had previously said that the Pels should prioritize Ingram over Zion, and Zion is not a unrestricted free agent until the age of 28. Let's look at what he is making for the next few years. It really seemed like it wasn't so much about Zion versus BI, but Trey Murphy III or BI. So it makes sense that they'll prioritize Trey Murphy. He's on a lower paid scale contract right now. As far as BI and his contract, he's owed 26 next season, 39 after that, 42, and then 44 million in 2027. And then he becomes a unrestricted free agent at the tender age of 28. In this part of the pod, we'll be speaking about the women because we cannot forget about our women. The WNBA plans to commit $50 million over the next 2 years to provide full-time charter flight service for its teams during the season. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert announced Tuesday in a move that addresses years of player safety concerns. They are investing $25 million over the next 2 years. So that comes out to $12.5 million per year. And what are my thoughts on this? I love this. Asia Wilson recently posted that not so fast about the charter flights. Do not release the article if it's not happening just yet, which kudos to her for saying that. I know this has been a concern in the women's game, but this is essentially what happens when a once in a generational lifetime in Caitlin Clark enters the league. That's not a shot at any of the other greats that have came before her and have made an impact in the W along the way. But Caitlin has single-handedly given more exposure to the women's game like we've never seen before. I mean, who do you know that's paying $600 plus to see a college women's game? We've never seen it. We owe a lot to Caitlin Clark, and a lot of those women do. When the money flows in, money gets pumped out, baby. It's simple as that. And I'm happy. This is the sign that things are headed in the right direction. In this part of the pod, I'll be going through league awards that have been distributed in the association. So let's start off with MVP, since this just got announced yesterday. The Joker in Denver wins this award. Congrats to him. He joins elite company to have at least won 3 MVP trophies in his NBA career. He joins the likes of Moses Malone, Magic, Larry Bird, LeBron, Will Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Michael Jordan, and Kareem, who has the most at 6. The Joker had an amazing season. Guiding the Nuggets to a number 2 seed in the West. He averaged 26 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists a game, a hair close to a triple-double. So congratulations to him. The next award is Defensive Player of the Year. This went out to the center in Minnesota. That is Rudy Gobert. A tall Frenchman becomes the third player in NBA history to win the award 4 times, joining Dikembe Mutombo and Ben Wallace. Previously took the honors in 2021, 2019, and 2018. So that is pretty elite company. That will be a great accomplishment for him. Another point with Rudy is, led by Gobert, the Timberwolves had the best defensive rating, allowed the fewest points per game, and held opponents to the lowest field goal percentage in the NBA. Rudy averaged 14 points per game, 13 rebounds on 66% shooting from the field, shot 63% at the charity stripe. But let's be honest, he is not an offensive threat. It's more the work he does on the defensive end. Let's switch gears. Rookie of the Year has been announced this past week. Victor Wembanyama won this award very recently here. And get this, guys, he would have been the first player ever to win Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year in the same season. Wild. So Victor's numbers this season, he averaged 21, 10, and 3. Pretty stellar season. Looking forward to what he does in his second season. The next award was recently announced, but this one is the NBA Teammate of the Year. The candidates were Harrison Barnes, Bridges in Brooklyn, Jalen Brunson, KCP, Mike Conley, Markelle Fultz, Al Horford, TJ McConnell, Larry Nance Jr., George Niang, Dwight Powell, and Jalen Williams. And the winner is Mike Conley. So congratulations to Mike for winning this award. This next award just got unveiled today, Thursday. That is the NBA Social Justice Champion. Well, what exactly is this award? So the winner of the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Trophy is for recognition of advancing the 6-time NBA champion and Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Famer's mission to drive change, inspire others to reflect on injustice, and take collective action in their communities over the previous year. The candidates were Bam Adebayo, CJ McCollum, Kat, Lindy Waters, Russell Westbrook. Those are the guys that were in this list. I had Russ to win this award. I'm being biased, partially because I live in California. I did see what Russ is doing for his community there in LA, and that is building 118 family affordable units and 62 house-less supportive senior units. It will also feature commercial and retail spaces with local businesses, a Target, a college prep school, and a transit plaza. So the winner of this award got announced today, and that was Karl Anthony Towns. Congratulations to him. The next award I wanted to briefly speak about is Executive of the Year, was announced to Brad Stevens with the Boston Celtics. And that Derek White trade is looking real good right about now, huh? Because he's playing a lot better than Jason Tatum right now. Let's keep it 100. So that's that. I appreciate you guys listening to the very end of the pod here. The last thing I want to discuss as far as our agenda here is who the Kings should target in the offseason. Potential Kings free agent targets for guards on the ball handlers. Players like Tyus Jones, Monte Morris, Delon Wright, Reggie Jackson, and Russell Westbrook, who has a player option of $3.9 million. On ball guards on this list, the first one is Malik Monk, who the Kings need to re-sign this offseason. That is business they need to take care of first. Pay that man. Gary Trent Jr., Malik Beasley, DeAnthony Melton, Bruce Bowen has a team option of $22.5 million. Josh Richardson has a player option of $3 million. KCP has a player option of $15.1 million. And Isaac Okoro is a restricted free agent. I'll give you guys my thoughts on who the Kings should go after here. The Kings really need a combo guard who can play on both sides of the ball. Having a coach like Mike Brown who emphasizes defense, they need to come in and have a defensive mindset. They can't just be all offense. That's not going to cut it. As well as a ball handler when Foxy goes out. Davion Mitchell, I will give him his credit, has been better. This past season, his three-point shot was a lot better. He seemed more confident towards the end of the season. For a combo guard, I would target Isaiah Joe out in OKC, depending, of course, what happens with Malik Monk. Isaiah Joe is only 25 years old, and that man can shoot the lights out. I remember seeing him in preseason last year, and I was like, that boy can shoot the ball just as good as Steph Curry. Okay, maybe he's not at that level, but he's pretty damn good. The other person not on this list is Najee Marshall. I think the Kings should go after him. The Kings need an upgrade from HB at the small forward position. That's who you should go after. I think you bring him in, currently a unrestricted free agent making $1.3 million. They should go after. He can play on both sides of the ball as well. He has that dog in him. Yes, he does. And as far as Malik Monk, the biggest deal for the Kings this offseason is they need to match any offers that any of the teams have for him. They need to pay up if you're Vivek. It's not on here, but the Kings need more length, as I've talked about at the center position. JaVale McGee and Alex Len, having them as your backups is not going to do it, especially in the West. Look at what happened when they went up against the New Orleans Pelicans. They lost 6 times in a row. So who should come in? Isaiah Hartenstein in New York. That is, of course, if the Knicks do not give him a promotion. He is 26 years old, and he is on a $8 million salary at the moment. He's an unrestricted free agent with the Knicks at the moment. I think you go after him if you can. Another big, staying in the same proximity, is Nick Claxton with the Brooklyn Nets. He's on an $8.6 million salary at the moment, and the Nets have his bird rights. I say this because he's only 25 years old. You need to be young in the West. Look at what the Timberwolves are doing right now. They're lighting up the playoffs as it stands. He is a good rim protector. He's very limited offensively. He can get you 6 to 10 points a game, but it is what he can provide for the Kings when Domas Sabonis takes a break. So that's who I think the Kings should go after this offseason. If you're still listening, I really do appreciate it. This is the outro here. 2 things, and then we'll get up out of here. Number 1 is the California Classic has recently been announced as of yesterday, the 8th. Here is a press release. Quote, today, the Sacramento Kings and Golden State Warriors announced that they will be partnering to host an expanded dual California Classic Summer League event in both Sacramento and San Francisco. The 6th annual California Classic Summer League will feature 3 days of gameplay at Golden One Center, presented by Ticketmaster on July 6, 7, and 9, with the Sacramento Kings, Spurs, Hornets, and Chase Center on July 6, 7, and 10, with the Golden State Warriors, Kings, Lakers, and Miami Heat. The Summer League will include a total of 12 games featuring rookies selected in the 2024 draft, sophomores and athletes competing to make an NBA and G League regular season roster. The event will culminate in a final Northern California battle featuring the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors at Chase Center on July 10. Similar to other Summer League matches, modified game rules will be in place, including 10-minute quarters. In addition, the 3 days will include exciting family-friendly entertainment. Second point is I will be attending the Seattle Storm and Indiana Fever game in a few weeks in Seattle. I'll be going up there next week. I am very excited for this one. It's the only professional women's basketball team that they have there in Seattle, or any professional basketball team at that matter. The Seattle Storm have had a lot of history there in Seattle, so I'll be looking to have some fun watching Caitlin Clark play. I'm just happy I'm not shelling out $600 or more for tickets like people did during the NCAA tournament, but I will report back to you guys when I get back. As the final buzzer sounds, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for joining us on this exhilarating journey through the world of basketball. Your support fuels our passion and drives us to keep bringing you the latest and greatest insights from the court. Before you go, remember to hit that subscribe button to never miss an episode. And don't forget to leave us star-studded reviews to let us know how we're doing. For even more exclusive content, be sure to follow our YouTube page and catch us on Instagram at Shot Clock Scribbles, where the conversation continues long after the podcast ends. You can also find me on TikTok with the same handle as well. In conclusion, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you for being part of the Shot Clock Scribbles family. Until next time, keep your eyes on the shot clock and keep scribbling those hoop dreams into reality. This is Shot Clock Scribbles, where the game never stops and neither do we. See you on the court.